May 19, 1845. The Thames River, England. 2 ships depart with 129 men aboard. HMS Erebus and HMS Terror are the most advanced vessels in the Royal Navy. Their hulls are reinforced with iron to survive crushing ice. They carry steam engines with retractable propellers, new technology for polar waters. Their holds are packed with 3 years of provisions, 60,000 pounds of flour, 30,000 pounds of salted beef, 8,000 tins of preserved meat sealed with lead solder. The ships are commanded by Sir John Franklin, a veteran of Arctic exploration. He has already mapped 1,200 miles of the Canadian coastline. His wife Jane sewed a silk Union Jack for him to plant at the passage's end, the Mission, navigate the final unmapped section connecting the Atlantic to the Pacific. No ship has ever done this. The reward is glory and a place in history. It is the most ambitious Arctic voyage ever undertaken by any nation. The ships are last seen by European eyes on July 26, 1845. 2 whaling vessels encounter them in Baffin Bay, waiting for the ice to clear. The whalers report that Franklin and his officers are in excellent spirits. The ships sail west into Lancaster Sound and disappear from the world. They are not seen again for 169 years. The first winter passes. Then the second. Then the third. No word reaches England from the Arctic. The silence grows heavier with each season. Jane Franklin refuses to accept that her husband is lost. She writes letters to the Admiralty, to Parliament, to the newspapers. She funds search expeditions with her own money when the government hesitates. She becomes the force behind the largest search operation in maritime history. Over the next decade, more than 30 expeditions search for the missing ships. They search by ship and sledge, mapping thousands of miles of uncharted coastline. They do not find Franklin, but they chart the Northwest Passage in the process. The man they are searching for mapped the passage with his disappearance. In 1850, searchers find the first clue on Beechey Island. 3 graves. 3 men who died in the first winter. Their headstones are carved by their shipmates, and the graves are well tended. The expedition was still functioning when these men were buried. After Beechey Island, the trail goes cold for 4 more years. In 1854, a Scottish explorer named John Ray meets Inuit hunters. They tell him a story he does not want to hear. They describe 40 white men walking south across the ice. The men were thin and starving and pulling a boat on a sledge. Some of the men had been eating each other. Ray reports this and is publicly attacked for repeating what the Inuit said. Charles Dickens writes an essay accusing the Inuit of murder. Victorian England cannot accept that Royal Navy officers could resort to cannibalism, but the Inuit were telling the truth. In 1859, searchers find a cairn on King William Island with a single sheet of paper. The paper bears 2 messages written a year apart. The first, from 1847, is optimistic. All is well. The second, written in the margin in April 1848, tells a different story. Sir John Franklin died on June 11th, 1847. The ships have been trapped in ice for 19 months. 24 men are dead, including Franklin and the senior officers. The survivors are abandoning the ships and walking south. 105 men begin that walk. Not one survives. Inuit oral histories describe encounters with the starving men. They describe ships trapped in ice with smoke still rising from their funnels. They describe a tall officer who died with his jaw set in determination. They describe seal meat offered to men who were too sick to eat it. For more than a century, the location of the ships remained unknown. Dozens of expeditions searched using sonar and magnetometers and satellite imagery. None of them found the ships. The Arctic had swallowed two of the most advanced vessels in history. In 2014, a Canadian search team using sonar found the wreck of HMS Erebus. The ship was in 36 feet of water in a bay the Inuit always pointed to. Divers descended to the wreck and found the hull almost perfectly preserved. The cold water had kept the wood intact for more than a century and a half. The ship's bell was recovered and brought to the surface by the dive team. The name Erebus was still legible in raised letters on the bronze. The bell rang for the first time in 169 years at the surface. 2 years later, in 2016, HMS Terror was found in even more remarkable condition. The ship sat upright in 80 feet of water, with its masts still standing. The windows in the captain's cabin were intact with glass panes, still in their frames. Dinner plates were still stacked in the officers' mess, waiting for a meal that never came. The helm wheel was still in position, as if the helmsman had just stepped away. The ship looked like it could sail if the water drained and the ice released its hold. The discovery answered the question of where, but not the question of why. Forensic examination of remains revealed elevated lead levels. The lead came from the solder sealing the tinned provisions. The technology that made the expedition possible may have helped destroy it. Lead poisoning causes confusion and physical deterioration in men already starving. But lead does not explain everything. Starvation alone does not explain everything. The full story of what happened on the ice will never be known. The last survivors died with no one to record their final words. The Inuit remembered and told the truth, and England refused to believe them. It took 150 years for official history to acknowledge the Inuit were right. The wrecks are now protected sites managed jointly by Canada and the Inuit. The Franklin story has become a national founding myth in Canada. A story of hubris and endurance and the unforgiving nature of the Arctic. Jane Franklin never remarried and never stopped searching. She died in 1875 at 83, having mapped more of the Arctic than most explorers. The silk Union Jack she sewed for Franklin was never planted at the passage's end. It is preserved in a museum in London, folded and yellowed with age. The flag was carried across the Arctic by men who believed they would make history. They did make history, just not the history they intended. They mapped the passage by dying in it and discovered the route by vanishing from it. They became the mystery they were sent to solve. The ice that trapped them never gave up a single ship for 169 years, and when it finally did, the ships were still waiting upright, silent, perfectly preserved, as if they had been expecting someone to come looking for them all along.